Hi, Mike McGinnis for Your World in Agriculture here on agriculture.com. Visiting today with Kevin Roepke. He's the Director of Trade Development for the U.S. Grains Council in China, specifically in Beijing. So we're going to hear news about China today. Kevin, first off, thanks for taking time out.
No problem, Mike. It's an honor to speak with you.
Let's talk about the corn crop estimates right now that you're hearing about in China. How much corn will China expect to plant this year and grow, and how does that compare to previous years?
Transparency is always an issue in China, and as such, crop estimates are a little hard to peg. There are a few private analysts that have numbers out. One such as JCI. They are projecting actually about a 2.5% increase in production for the upcoming year. But I always like to mention whenever we talk about production numbers, and especially in China, that it's not just about production increases; it's also about consumption increases as well. And they're also projecting. JCI is also projecting about a 3% increase in consumption. So what that's really saying is that consumption is still projected to outpace production. So that's an interesting point. One more point I would like to make is that the Grains Council always does a yearly corn crop tour, and it's always been kind of focused around one area, but it's a little bit kind of like if you were to do a crop tour in the U.S. if you would just kind of focus it in Iowa, Illinois, Minnesota. So if you were not to go up to North Dakota, you wouldn't really see a lot of those incremental acres. So this year we're really going to focus on trying to branch our crop tour out to see some of those marginal acres and incremental acres, especially in northern China.
Well, is China currently sitting on a bunch of corn, or do you see the need for that country to be importing corn from U.S. and other sources this marketing year?
Yeah, that's always a frustrating question to answer. Does China have a need to import versus should China import? And that's, I think, is the better question. China is sitting on a large quantity of corn. I think the USDA last has them pegged at 72 million tons, which would calculate to about 45% of global ending stocks. You compare that to the U.S. at about 37 million tons of ending stocks, or 23% of the global ending stocks. But the one real issue that you have to look at that is what's the quality of that corn? And we're hearing, especially in Northeast and Heilongjiang province, as much as 80% of the corn production is actually damaged from mold, and some of it is severely damaged from mold. So the quality of that corn that actually they may have is in serious question. Along the lines of whether or not China should import corn, they have issues with heavy metal pollution, contamination, especially with irrigation water, lead, cadmium, things like that. And I always like to look at supply and demand estimates of corn in China, but there's really only one number, supply and demand estimate, that I like to look at, and that's the price of domestic corn versus the price of imported corn. And right now, the price of imported corn, if we could import corn, as well as anyone, we have some biotechnology issues, is around 330. The price of domestic corn is around 390 per ton, U.S. dollars per ton. So there's be about a $60 import arbitrage, import margin, if we could import corn. And that just goes into another one of those answers of should China import corn versus does China need to import corn.
Let's shift to soybeans. Of course, you're hearing a lot here in the U.S. about will China cancel more previously purchased U.S. soybeans? They're already doing so from South America. What's your sense on China's insatiable appetite for U.S. soybeans, and will we see more cancellations in the month of April and late March?
Yeah, it's kind of an undeniable fact right now that agriculture and a lot of industries within agriculture in China is not really a sexy industry. You see a lot of businesses when they report earnings, they have top line growth, but then they have bottom line losses. So what that's telling you is that they're expanding, however, they're not doing so efficiently or profitably. You have soybean crushers that are losing 30 RMB per ton on their margins of crushing soybeans. You have lots of reports of floating storage going on because the ports are all full. And then obviously Chinese are very, very worried about South America in terms of waiting lines. You know, we have about, I think I last saw a 53-day waiting line average in the port of Paranaguá. And there's really no sense to wait in line for 53 days when you're losing 30 RMB per ton on that to crush those beans anyways.
Hmm.
So you know it's kind of a depressing agricultural situation right now, but the undeniable facts are that you know China produces about as much soybeans as South Dakota does, and they're the world's largest consumer of soybeans. So that demand is still going to continue to grow.
It's huge. Well, very good. Thanks for your time, Kevin. I appreciate it and appreciate your insight.
Yeah, you bet, Mike. No problem.
That's Kevin Roepke from the Division of Trade Development Office for China for the U.S. Grains Council. I'm Mike McGinnis for your World in Agriculture here on agriculture.com.